And thank you, Colin. Okay. Perfect. All right. Welcome everyone to this month's member call. My name is Sarah Sterling. I'm the program catalyst for conveners.org. And today we're going to be looking at a topic that's, I think, really top of mind for a lot of us as we start thinking about, do we attend in-person events? Do we host in-person events as conveners ourselves? What type of gatherings do we want to be included in, but also just in terms of like taking a step back and looking more internally, how do we really have these strategies for personal and community resilience? So both looking at the personal, individual, internal level, as well as the community, collective, external level. So a little bit about conveners.org for those of you who are not part of the community just yet or are joining us for the very first time as a member of conveners.org. We're a small but mighty virtual team that spans all across the US and the globe. A lot of virtual nomads like Colin, who's in Mexico, but calls Newfoundland home, and it was previously before that in Spain. I myself am based in Guatemala City, Guatemala, and we have just team members that are based everywhere from Canada to Latin America to Europe. So if you have any questions around managing and growing and scaling a virtual team, please let us know, because we've always been virtual. We have a lot of tips and tricks. And who are we? What do we do? We are a membership community as well as an advisory services consulting organization. So a 501c3 nonprofit based in San Francisco, California, technically, although we don't have a physical office. And our membership community is a place for impact-focused conveners to connect, learn, and collaborate with one another. And so when we mean convener, we define convener as any individual or organization that's committed to bringing others together into a common space to have conversations for systems level change. So this could look like impact event organizers, like SOCAP, Opportunity Collaboration, Social Venture Circle. This could be Impact Accelerator Incubator, like Echoing Green, Spring Activator in Canada, Miller Center for Social Entrepreneurship. This could be leadership, coaching, wellness, development, connectors, like we have on the call with Annette Mason. So we have a very diverse membership community, but with that thread of that passion for impact and bringing others together into a common space. And our services on the advisory consulting part are more one-on-one services that we provide to individual organizations as a separate service. And this can look like working with large corporates, foundations, universities in either ideation around creation of an event, or just training, facilitation support, and actual implementation support during a particular event or training. So we've worked with organizations such as Hewlett Foundation, Kauffman Foundation, Kaiser Permanente on their accelerator work side. And we also are always open to collaborations and partnerships when it comes to approaching funders, whether it be like a USAID type of RFP or another larger foundation donor to do collective projects together. Upcoming calls for our members, we have a master class, which is a 90-minute working group session focused more towards our entrepreneur support organization community, with the topic being placing humanity at the center of technology, led by Humanitech. And then May 4th at 10 a.m. Eastern, we're going to have a coffee and tea connection, which is an informal connection space for our members to connect more on a personal level, led by Derek Carter, who's a fellow member of conveners.org. So our time for today, we just went over the welcome. We're going to do a quick community connection because that's how we love to get everyone introduced to one another, break the ice, get in that spirit of collaborating, connecting, and engaging. And then I'll hand it off to our guest Spark presenter, Annette Mason, and I'll introduce her in a second. But first, community connection. Since we are a smaller group here, I'm going to probably just leave us in this group, but let me exit out first. But our community connection question today is, what is one thing that you try to do every day that is just for you? And so I'll go ahead and stop screen share so I can see everyone's beautiful faces. And it's a great question that Colin came up with, so I don't have an answer off the tip of my tongue, so I have to think about it as well. But does anyone have something that's been sparked for them that they want to share?
I can start since I made it and had time to think, and everyone else can take a moment to give some thought to theirs. Mine is eat breakfast. I was never a breakfast eater. I did not eat breakfast in the mornings. My mindset in the morning was always about getting up and getting ready for work, and now trying to shift it more to getting up and getting ready for my day. In all senses, not just work. So taking the time to actually eat breakfast, it's usually just toast and peanut butter, but it's something, and it's just a small moment that's about myself and my day as opposed to my work day.
And Colin, do you want to popcorn it to someone? Oh, except some people came off mute, so, but that's how we usually do this when it's a smaller group. Della, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I always try to spend a little bit of time outside. So it's either walking my dogs, or maybe because I work from home, walking my dogs, or I'm doing a little gardening, maybe at lunchtime or in the morning if I have a chance. And scenario, if I don't get to have time to do either of those, even if I just walk outside with the dogs when they go out and spend a few minutes, it always gives me some nice energy.
Awesome.
How about Haley?
Hi, everyone. I'm Haley. Yes, so Colin, what you were saying really resonated with me, but for dinner in a different way, in that I try not to multitask. Like, I'm often multitasking during breakfast or lunch, but like dinner time, I'm like, okay, this is gonna unwind and like have a meal, especially if I take the time to cook something that isn't like, I just need to eat something. But if I took the time to prepare something nice for myself, that's definitely something that's good.
Cool.
Penny, do you want to go next?
Sure. Pieces of what all of you've said. I think I like to go outside and walk my dog. That's something I look forward to. And just breathing and just feeling good to be outdoors. And I also have, I fractured my leg in December, and so I've been recovering. But the best part about that whole thing was it made me slow down. And as I slowed down, I really got to appreciate my time and me. And so rather than always being focused on the goal, I try to just enjoy the moment and be present there. Kathy.
Well, I can connect with breakfast and dinner. Those are important slow down points for me, for sure. But Annette and I, and Penny, I think you're also in the writing and community round. Anyway, we've all met through Akimbo. So I write every day, and that's become a habit, and it's something that I do, which is definitely just about me and my work or whatever is happening. I'll do a post. Yeah, it's important. I'll pass off to Keith.
Hey, thank you. You know, I generally don't sleep well at night, and somehow I'm usually awake much earlier in the morning than I'd like to. So what I do for myself is I turn on Bloomberg TV and I watch a show called Bloomberg Surveillance, and it gives me financial input, Keith, but it's because of my 1.5-year-old daughter. Aw, I love that. Yeah, my 20-year-old son came to visit me from Berlin for a couple of weeks, so that definitely kept me busy. You know, I really like the idea of going outside, and I'm sorry that I don't do that for myself. And I honestly, the only reason why I say this is just to get it off my chest. I'm still caught up in, I'm in the Seattle area, which really, I'm in Kirkland, so across the lake from Seattle. But honestly, as a Black American, I really don't go outside as much as I did years ago. And there is a conscious bias of survival that is irrational, and yet it has swayed my behavior. And you guys are reminding me that outside is energy and life. And I'm making a commitment to go outside, and it's because of you guys. And I'm grateful for being here today. Thank you. And I don't know who hasn't gone yet, but please, someone go after me.
Thank you, Keith, for sharing. Annette and I still have to go. I'll go really quick. +1 to everything you all are saying, and same with you, Keith, in terms of being a foreigner living in Guatemala City, which is one of the highest murder rates of any capital city in the world. So luckily we have a very safe condominium, so I can go outside, but I was in the same boat, not the same, but similar boat for that. So I hear what you're saying for that. And then I'll just add, I love doing art or dancing with my baby girl. She loves painting. She doesn't like to get her hands dirty, except in dirt. It's a weird toddler phase right now. So finger painting is out, but playing in mud is fine. And she loves to paint and draw and dance and put on like scarves and wave them around. So it's just such a beautiful highlight to my days. So I'll pass it to Annette.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, one of the things that I do that I can claim specifically just for myself is I journal every day. And so I use a writing journal. I also use a sketch journal. The sketch journal now, over our time together. Hi, Terry, welcome. I have now, I do share my sketches. I share my sketches in my writing community and in groups that I'm in. And occasionally I do on LinkedIn, like I did today, just sharing that we're gathering today. Yeah, so Terry, welcome. What we're doing right now is Colin had a prompt for us, and it was, what is something that you do for yourself every day? What is something that's just for you? And if you wouldn't mind sharing, the mic is yours.
I'd say a 4-mile walk and a 4-minute plank.
Perfect.
4 for 4.
And I love that. And I love the different ideas that people have shared, and so many +1s. And I'm going to +1 you, Terry, because I would like to have tighter abs. And I think that I'll start with a 1-minute plank and work up from there.
15 seconds and then do it it took me a few years, I mean, to get up, right? Yeah. Not easy. But you got to do it every day.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Well, and the beauty of planking is you can take it with you. You can be traveling and still do it. No excuses.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for sharing. And I think that's a beautiful transition into our conversation today. So I just want to quickly share our guest spark intro slide. But just so grateful. Annette's been a member of conveners.org community for some time, and she has led multiple member calls around different topics, but with a common theme. And so I'm just so grateful and honored to have her invest her time and energy into our community yet again with this call. And again, for Terry, as we mentioned before, this is an invitation to be a really engaging, highly participatory call with input and sharing from everyone, and just co-learning and co-sharing from this call. So with that, I will stop sharing the screen, but we'll put in her LinkedIn and website links so you all can connect with her even after this call. And take it away, Annette.
Okay, great. Colin, are you able to pop up the resilience picture?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So does everybody have like a pen and paper or something that you can make your own notes with? Because what we're here to do today is to spark ideas about our own personal resilience and the resilience for our friends and family and communities that we're involved in. And my promise to you is that you'll be able to develop a little toolkit based on our conversation today. And this is to kind of give you some thoughts and ideas. And what I would suggest is that on your notes, you make a column for me and you make a column for we. And in your rows, you make a row for awareness and actions. And it'll be your old-fashioned, old style way of taking notes and having a toolkit when you leave. So what we're going to do is start with resilience, and it's the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. It's also known as being able to bounce back, elasticity. And so why we gathered here today is to talk about what we can do for ourselves and what we can do for others. And also, I'm happy to, or Colin has this too, we can put this in the chat and you're welcome to take a copy of it with you. Okay, Colin, if you bring us back to gallery view. Oh, and I can even do that. So if anybody wants, oops, here we go.
So if you're not in gallery view and you want to see everybody, it's just you do have to do that individually. It's the top right corner of your window. You should be able to hit view and then change it to gallery. It might change it when I screen share, so you might have to go back to it each time.
Yeah, it was good. It was that I tried to open up or copy the link. So with that, to ground us today, I want to share one of my favorite quotes. And share my overall intention. So as I mentioned, my intention is to help everyone leave this hour with at least one intentional action to take care of yourself and to contribute to your community. It might be a practice, a ritual, it might be renewing a relationship, but one thing that will inspire action. And I think with the way we started things off, we've already inspired action. And to get grounded for a moment, one of my favorite quotes is this: travel isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. It even breaks your heart, but that's okay. The journey changes you. It should change you. It leaves marks on your memory, on your consciousness, on your heart, and on your body. You take something with you, and hopefully you leave something good behind. And that's from Anthony Bourdain. And the reason I share that is that fits whether it's life or travel. And often travel is metaphorical. You know, there's the travel within, there's the being in our own communities. And what we've gone through in the last 2 years has given a whole new meaning to even going outside. So with that, what I'd like to do is ask a couple of questions. And one of those questions, and what I'd like you to do is make a note for yourself if there's something that you want to recall, and if you would also put something in the chat. So my question for you is, what gives you meaning and purpose? And how has that changed, if at all, in the last 2 years? And I'll give an example. For me, one thing, Kathy mentioned it earlier. I, like Kathy, have started writing every day. And that writing has given me meaning and purpose. It's also given me a whole different way of having clarity of thought. and it's helped me be a better communicator.
Annette, do you want us to respond to that in the chat? Is that what you're,
Sure.
okay, great.
Yes, please. And I started off with a very big question. And we're going to zoom down and bring it in closer to us. Sarah, that's a very interesting perspective about our worth and our personal worth and how we view ourselves.
Yeah, and as people share, just to expand on that, if we're allowed, if we're
Sure,
invited to verbally as well, just while people are thinking and writing down their thoughts. I think, yeah, I was in a different job 2 years, like a lot of changes have happened in the 2 years, not just with COVID, but switched jobs, had a baby, first baby, only babies so far. And definitely as like a single woman traveling the world and living in another country, definitely was in a very like male dominated competitive environment, that everyone's worth and on the team was tied to performance. So if you didn't stay late in the office, you weren't as committed of a team member, those sort of things, but it really pushed me to have more clear boundaries and really assess, you know, what is really most important for me and the life that I want to have personally and professionally.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I have been dealing with my own, I'm going through transitions with my kids. We had one of my sons was married this last year, and he's coming up, he and his wife are coming up on their anniversary. So that's a transition. What I didn't realize until the pandemic hit was how much of my identity I had tied to being a breadwinner. And so it's fascinating the different ways we hold our worth, and we don't even realize it until something shifts. And that's part of also the discussion today about resilience, and is recognizing what are our mindsets and what are the mind shifts. And that's why it's so valuable to share with each other, because it helps open up our own self-reflection and also awareness of what others might be experiencing. Would anybody else like to verbalize some of what they've shared?
I can speak to mine, Annette. So the concept of writing, because I retired from a 30-year career as a therapist, and I was definitely in this place of transition, had an extraordinary encounter with elephants in Kenya. I am a wildlife photographer, but that experience changed my life, and then COVID came. So I suddenly had something to write about, and it felt like what I came home from was a significant message from the wildlife in terms of we need to protect them. And often that's a great statement, but people need education. And so I'm using my stories and my images to tell my story about why this matters, and hopefully touch other folks and bring together a community through that. And 2 years ago, I had no picture of that at all. Really, my photography was something I was very interested in, but I didn't know how to get it out in the world. And that has really shifted to a place where I see this time in my life as a time of giving back.
Thank you for that. And if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow is Earth Day, and that's your launch of your letting people know officially about your book.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. It's called The Wisdom of Elephants.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Keith here. I think I've been searching for our get together here for a long time. Honestly, my life shifted all the way back 20 years ago with September 11th. And fortunately, not having the person I was calling, I called 5 times a week before to meet with at 8:30 that morning on September 11th in World Trade Center 1, 104th floor. The assistant that I spoke with and the person I was supposed to meet with both passed on that day, and had I been there, yeah, it changed my life. I ended up moving to Germany for 4 years, where my son still lives with his mother, my ex-wife, and quite frankly, resilience has not turned to thriving just yet. However, as I shared, I am a member of a group called the African Diaspora Development Institute, and we're looking to turn the tide on the colonist business model that colonialism left behind on the continent of Africa, and looking to empower business entrepreneurship on the continent at a scale that will shift not only the perception, but the livability and thriving nature of what's available on the continent for the continent. And yeah, that definitely brings meaning and purpose. And my life shifted when I had the opportunity to meet with, at her home, Ambassador Chihombari Kwao, the former African Union ambassador to the United States, that wrote that fiery letter to Trump when he called various African countries S-hole countries, and subsequently got fired, and is the best thing that could ever happen to the continent, because she is on fire for the continent. And some 250, 220 of us went to Ghana in December, and for Wakanda One, City of Return. It's a full development that we broke ground on during December. It's just amazing what showing up with 200 plus people can actually engender in a population that knows that someone cares about them and is interested in their well-being. So it's firing up from leaders around the continent. It's marvelous, and it's a whole lot of work.
Yes, Keith, thank you for sharing that. That's exciting. And offline, we'll have to connect, like on LinkedIn. I have a feeling that we have some connections that are Ghana based, and if we don't, we'll forge them.
Excellent. I've already clicked to follow you. I'll send you a request.
Okay, great. That's wonderful. Thank you. That's one of the things I love about conveners.org is that we come together, and there's so many shared interests and then intersection points. And with that, is there anyone else that would like to share their answer to this first question? Okay. Well, with that, I mentioned that I was going to zoom in a little bit closer. I was asking about purpose, and one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of right now, I am in conversations like this almost 7 days a week, And that started in 2020, and it has continued. And one of the things that's very fascinating right now is a lot of people asking questions of self-discovery and what matters to me now. And even when Colin and I met about a month or so ago to talk about this, I had a very specific agenda, and yet things just kept percolating up that are meaningful and relevant for right now. And one of the things that came up was this question is like, what matters to me? And where do I get meaning? And here are two questions to ask yourself and make some notes about. And I'll give you a couple minutes, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. If you think about this last week and how you spent it, think about a time that you're doing something that you absolutely loved and write it down. And think about a time when you might have been doing something you absolutely loathed and write it down. So I'll give you a couple minutes just to reflect on that and make some notes.
That's a day brightener right there.
How are you doing? Good? So were you able to recall something in each category?
Yeah.
And with that, are you able to make some choices in the coming week to do more of one and less of the other? And another question I ponder and I've discussed with some people is this notion of doing things that we're good at. So a lot of times we get kind of tricked into doing things that we're good at, but they don't necessarily energize us or bring us joy. And that level of discernment is also super important as we make choices. And as we discover other people's strengths, because one of the magical things that can happen is with that level of awareness, you know, like something that's not my favorite thing is doing taxes, not my favorite thing. I am lucky enough to have a person in my life that interned for me when I first started my business, and he went on to be a CPA. It floats his boat. and so those are some of the kinds of things. So I don't know if anybody wants to talk about something that they really love and what they do to bring more of it into their lives. Does anyone want to share? Sure, Terry.
What I love is to travel, and even better, I love to plan that travel, because that adventure awaits is a real huge plus. And I just love that whole arc of the planning, from when you think about a trip, possibly getting some information, and then actually maybe putting some dates on the calendar and see if that's going to go. And then when the day comes, of course, everything is wonderful and ready to go. But I think it's that whole journey, and that adventure awaits there's an adventure around every corner. So I always like that adventure awaits. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And that's what I love. Can't do it so much. Well, we couldn't be, well, I still travel, I guess, but not out of the country. We just travel throughout the US.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is super powerful about anticipating it,
Yep.
then experiencing it.
Yep.
And then, depending on how you memorialize it, telling stories or sharing pictures.
That's what I want to
Yeah,
do.
it has a nice long arc.
Yes, a nice long arc. And the trip this summer is going to be a kind of a long trip. So I'll be writing about it every day and just see where the wind takes me, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I see Sarah's notes too, about trips. Thank you, Terry. Loving travel and loathing airport security and customs. Yeah. Yeah. I hear you on that. And does anybody have any tricks or tips on how to make travel security more joyful?
I think
Tips. Go ahead.
You're there. Go ahead, Keith.
Global entry, and there's a passport app that my son uses as well that gets him past an awful lot of lines coming back into the States. I have to look for it, but he swears by it, and yeah, those two things help a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never done it, but sometimes I feel like I just wish I could go to the airport in my pajamas because I always seem to have the wrong coat on or the wrong bracelet or something. How about, does anybody have anything that they loathe, that they have an idea or would like somebody's idea on how to do less of it?
Oh, I'd love the idea on who would like to make dinner. Hold it, but I'm so tired of it.
Of making dinner?
Yeah, my idea of, when they say if someone gave you $1 million, what would you do? It's like a personal chef would just be someone say, Kathy, dinner time. That's just like my idea of heaven. That would be awesome.
Mine is, I love cooking dinner. I hate figuring out what to cook. So when I'm back in Canada, you figure out what to have for dinner and then I'll cook it.
You need to move in next door then.
I've decided that those are 3 steps. Like, one is deciding what to do. The next is buying the ingredients. And the third is like prep and cooking. And sometimes I combine them differently, but essentially I break them up pretty well. That helps me a lot. I also eat quesadillas a lot when I'm alone. So don't listen to me.
My son just turned me on to that on his visit.
Yeah, cheese quesadillas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Easiest dinner
So
ever.
I've made it like 3 times since
Totally.
he's left. He's been gone less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the cooking ad I would share is my husband and I go back east regularly. And so we live in kind of apartment style life, but it's a hotel, it's a residence inn. But we're there frequently enough that we bought a smart oven that they keep for us.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, Kathy, maybe this is one of your tips or tricks.
It's gonna be
So
my action piece.
a smart oven is a countertop oven that has all these dials that can air fry and convection bake and do things very quickly. So even in a residence inn, we have very nice meals because I can walk to the Whole Foods and bring food home. And air frying is a very fast way of finishing food and can crispen things. And it's really great. We're more pescatarian bent, or I'm more pescatarian bent. So it's fast and convenient. And yeah. Who else would like to share something?
Sorry, pescatarian?
Oh, fish.
Okay,
Fish,
thank you.
fish and vegetables.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got it.
Yep. Yep. And more I'm leaning towards vegetables, but yeah, well, you know.
I'm very much the shopping bit is what I don't like to do. Like I don't mind the cooking bit, but it's like if I'm trying to make one thing and I realize I'm missing a couple of ingredients, that's the one, because then you have to leave the house to go and do that and be in lines and figure out exactly what you need, and then can you eat it before it goes bad?
Yeah. Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to share a thought on this question?
I have one more thing.
Yes.
When Keith was talking about, or when you guys were talking about waiting in line, if you have a good book, sometimes one that you can't put down is a great way to be in line with the book. This was several years ago. I went to the post office and the line was out the door. And I had boxes and I just kept pushing them ahead. I had a bag on, I just kept pushing. And I was reading my book. And finally I got to the guy that said, okay, come. I'm like, oh, I'm here already. I don't even know how long I was in line because I was so engrossed. I think you can't beat that.
Yeah, I sometimes do audiobooks and it
Yeah, there
does
you
really,
go.
yeah, you have your headset in and
Yeah,
you know,
so
you're
no
not
one even
going to
knows.
make friends, but you know,
Yeah.
at least you're entertained.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just food for thought.
Yeah, that's great. All of us could use tips and tricks of how to keep us like calm and steady, especially when it's something that can be annoying. You know, I shared the other day, I was on hold for like 35 minutes and they were playing music. And what I ended up doing was sketching while that was happening and trying to think positively of like something I'd seen. And, you know, knowing that I needed the help of the people on the other side of the line. And just because the technology wasn't working, but it does help to have something productive, a productive filler. And that's something we certainly have within our control if we think about it in advance. And that was one of the reasons why I really wanted you to be able to write things down today so that you would have some ideas and things that you could take with you. And going from like the thought of things that can help me or you to things that can help we and us. The question that I had asked you about the calendar check, about things that you love or you may loathe, those are good check-in questions with people in our lives too. You know, how was your week? What did you really enjoy doing? What did you wish you didn't have to do? You know, and that's not going to be the kind of question you're going to get a yes or no to, you know. And often, go ahead.
Can I jump in for a second?
Please.
My son taught me, I don't get much time with my son. I get maybe 2-3 weeks out of the year that we spend together. And he's 20 now, so he'd rather be out with his friends. But he shared the concept of rote Faden. It's a German concept of, translated means the red thread. And one of the things that just a little context, he's a social butterfly. He's like 6'3", he's cute as hell, and he plays soccer really well because he played in German leagues when he was a kid. So he's got more friends in Seattle, honestly, than I do. And between his friends from Berlin and Seattle, he's got friends up and down the West Coast of America. He's got friends all over this freaking country. And he spends maybe 2-3 weeks a year in this country. But I told him, I said, you're like me, but on an international scale. They used to call me the mayor of DC or the mayor of Hartford because I used to run around between DC and Connecticut. I'm from Connecticut. And I said, look, son, you need to pay attention to your intention. Don't get caught up in all the social friendships, because all those folks that you're meeting, I experienced that they had something going on. They had a mentor, they had someone that was guiding them on their path of career, of life, etc. I really didn't have that. And I don't get to spend much time with you. And he said, Papa, it's called rote Faden. I said, oh, what's that? And then he explained it to me. And he builds websites. He just engaged with a not-for-profit in San Diego because he went to visit a friend in San Diego. The non-for-profit that a friend of his took over from the parents of a friend who committed suicide several years ago. So now he's building his life around things that he actually does and loves doing. Oh my God, you see how excited he gets when he finds a new tool to build a website. I'm like, what? Okay, whatever. That's great. And I can't remember why I wanted to interject and say this. Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I got so excited sharing.
It was the check-in. The check-in, Annette was mentioning the check-in to talk to a loved one or a family.
Oh yeah. I don't know, mentorship and really having, yeah, exactly, having the good conversation around finding the things you love and that can propel us or propel that other person into the future. I mean, this is such a marvelous conversation. Marvelous conversation. And he set me straight. I love it. I love it. My 20-year-old set me straight. He's like, don't worry, Papa, I got this. I'm like, well, you need to come and talk to me so I can get on that, on the road to Faden. And now being here that you guys are sharing about journaling, it's not like I hadn't heard of journaling before, but I can feel your energy from over here, what you're sharing and how impactful it's been on your lives. And I want that. So yeah, I'm writing, Annette. I'm going to be quiet for right now because I've got to do some writing.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. So where I heard these two questions talked about, I have a pretty rigorous calendar that I keep that I call my learning calendar. And so I try very hard to go to certain learning dates during the week. And one's a self-care hour that's how I describe it. But I go to Aisha Bursel's Design the Life You Love every Wednesday. That happens at 5 p.m. Eastern time and 2 p.m. Pacific time. And several of us gather from around the globe. Aisha is based part of the year in New York City and in the summers in Turkey. So she started doing these teas back in the beginning of the pandemic. And yesterday was tea number 101. And another person that I try to pretty rigorously attend her LinkedIn Live events is Dory Clark. And last week, Dory had a gentleman named Marcus Buckingham. And Marcus Buckingham has been a people person and a talent developer for decades. And he has a new book about doing the work you love. And he brought up these two questions. He said, so often we get kind of stumped if somebody says, what are your intentions or what's your purpose? But you can actually look at your calendar and figure out what your purpose is, because you're usually loving what you're doing. And he's found like the sweet spot for most people. If you can be doing mostly the things you love about 70% of the time, you're in your sweet spot. And then a question came in about when he was saying, oh, and do this with your people. If you're leading people, do this with your people. And so, well, I don't have time to spend 15 minutes a week checking in with my people. And oftentimes people talk about that. And especially when you're running an organization, what's the span of control? And he said, if you can't spend 15 minutes with people that you're leading once a week, then you have too many people. And they deserve that kind of connection time. And so when Sarah was initially talking about, bringing us into the room today, those are the kinds of things that we have the opportunity to think about and rethink. Because as the world opens up to the new reality that we're facing, how we engage with people is a really important factor. And doing things the old way, if it worked and it bringing meaning and connection and valuable communication, then go with it. But if it wasn't, or it's not working now, these are the times to be able to step back. And I don't think anything that we've talked about so far is overly complicated. So most of the things that we can do for us, we can also open up and do for others. Let's see. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I do want to leave you with one more idea or tip. And you may have heard about doing this before. But I call this getting grounded perspective. We all have our ups and downs. And one thing that's really fun to do is with your friends and family, ask them for 3 words to describe you. And do it in a way that fits, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a text message, whether it's an email, and collect those words and keep those words present. Because as you're going through your ups and downs, it's really reassuring, because people are reflecting who you really are. And we all have our moments, but it's really good to have those thoughts in front of us when we're going through that roller coaster ride.
That's a great tip, Annette. Thanks.
Agreed.
Yeah. I have a little prop I'll show you real quick. Can you bring it up, Colin? What I did, all you have to do is Google word cloud software, and there's so many different apps. But I went and took the words so that I could have a visual representation of what they said. Thanks for showing, Colin.
What was the name of that app again, Annette? You said Word Pub?
Oh, if you just Google word cloud.
Oh, Word Cloud. Thank you.
It's a word cloud. Yeah.
So that's very cool. You just put in the words and it makes the cloud.
Yeah.
Love it.
They
Yeah,
also make really good tools for, for other people as well. I've done it for staff members of mine in the past. We had an assistant manager, for example, who moved out of the province. And as part of her parting gift, we had all of our staff and volunteers give us 3 words for her and put them into those. And it's something that I think that's really special and meaningful for people.
That's beautiful. I love it.
yeah. Well, I very much appreciate your time today and your conversation and sharing. I hope you've made some notes. I made some notes about the beautiful butterfly that told us about the red thread. So thank you for that.
Thanks so much, Annette. I'm going to go look at word cloud right now.
Okay.
Annette. This is
All
great.
right. Just take a minute here to thank Annette as well for spending her time with us and lending her expertise. And personally, I think this is a topic that I think you're seeing more and more discussed now since the pandemic and with what everyone has been through for the past 2 years. And I think it's something that's really meaningful. So grateful for all of you for joining us today and for participating so actively in this discussion. And we do meet every month for our member calls, so certainly keep an eye out for next month's. And once again, thank you to Annette for leading us through this.
Thank you for having me today. It's my
Thank you.
pleasure.